Hello and welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Bree.
And today we have returning to the podcast with us author Karen Booth. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yay! Thanks, guys. I'm excited to be here again.
We always love having you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for coming back so that I could get a chance to talk to you too. So.
Yeah, I know. You were not here last time.
Yeah. Well, what is your most embarrassing reaction to receiving a gift?
You know, I had to think about this for a while. I think crying. But mostly just like that moment when you're so overcome with emotion because someone gave you something that's just so meaningful.
Good crying. Okay.
Oh, good crying.
Not bad crying. Not bad crying.
You guys, I have to make a confession. Like, I have wanted to cry these past few years on like my birthday and Christmas because I'm like, I feel like the people closest to me don't know me at all. And I feel like I'm such a simple person, but I will get these gifts and I'm like, what made you think I wanted this?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That's not a fun feeling. That's not a fun feeling.
What's your go-to winter cocktail or drink?
All right. So this is going to make me sound like an old lady, but our next door neighbors, we hang out with them a lot. And David, the husband, he makes brandy Alexanders at Christmas. And they are the most like caloric indulgence you could imagine because it's brandy and like heavy cream but it is so delicious. So yeah, I guess I would have to say that. It does definitely gets me in the Christmas spirit.
A brandy Alexander, that's what it's called?
Yes, a brandy Alexander. I think it's from like the 40s.
Oh, it sounds so delightful.
It is very delightful.
Have you ever roasted chestnuts on an open fire?
I have not, but I am willing to learn. If someone wants to teach me. It can't be that hard, can it?
Right.
I see chestnuts in the store, especially around the holidays, and I always think to myself, I don't know what to do with those, but I don't even know if I've ever eaten a chestnut. But
well, if anyone's listening and they've actually done it, hit us up.
Yes, tell us all about it.
I mean, we all know the song, but has anyone actually done it is the question.
Right. Yes.
Well, okay, we're talking about your book today, A Christmas Rendezvous, that came out in 2019. And I mean, we want to hear the inspiration and everything about it, but there is something happening with this book. So will you tell us about that?
I will. So Harlequin came to me, I don't know, a few months ago and said that they wanted to re-release the book. And which is exciting. They do this every now and then. They did it, one of J.C. Lee's Desire series. They put new covers on and they gave them new titles. And so they just came to me and said, let's give this book another go. We're going to give it a different title. So it's called The Christmas Negotiation. And they gave it a cute illustrated cover and kind of playing up it's set in New York at the holidays, which is a pretty special thing. And it's a story about two lawyers who are in negotiation, literally up until Christmas. So it all kind of worked. And it has a little bit of a lighter tone than some of my desires. Not that I write particularly heavy books, but it's fun. It has a good meet cute. And yeah, so that's it. So it comes out December 5th.
Okay. Yeah, I wrote on Goodreads. I was like, this book is fire. It's so dope. Oh my God. It's so good.
Oh, thank you.
It was really
they're
good.
doing so it'll be re-released it's not going to be one of those like collector's books or whatever they call it, where it's like two books in one. Like it'll be released kind of like a standalone and like a new cover and everything.
But the new cover, yes, but this is just digital. They're not going to do print just because right now with all the supply chain stuff, you would have to plan this out a year ago to actually get it printed and into stores and all of that. So it's hard for them to funnel something new into that system. But so it'll just be digital.
This is so cool.
Yeah, it is very cool.
It's like one of your babies from the, back of the shelf getting new life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if you and Bree talked about it before I jumped on, but we were talking offline about did we get the right book?
Oh,
did
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
did you
We
get
knew
a
you had a
different
new
book?
book coming
Yeah.
out.
Right. It is confusing. Yeah, it is confusing.
No, and then we were both kind of excited for a minute because we're like, is Desire going back to the old red covers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. I do love the red. I do love the red. No,
I
I was surprised. I went to my bookshelf and I was like, oh wait, I actually still have copies of the original book. Not a lot, but I had a few. So
Well, thank you for
you're
sending
welcome.
Yeah,
those.
You're
thank
very
you.
welcome.
So, I mean, the book did come out in 2019, but do you remember where the inspiration for the story came from?
Well, so it's book 4 in a series called The Eden Empire. And although it can totally be read as a standalone, and actually when I planned the series, I did not plan book 4. Book 4 just came about because Isabel, the heroine, was in previous book. Her brother Sam is the hero in the 3rd book of the series, and
Oh,
I don't
Sam
know.
and Mindy.
I just liked her a lot, and I loved Sam, and readers really loved Sam, and so I was like, okay, well, this kind of gives me a way to put more of him in another book. He's not in it that much, but he's in it a little. Yeah, so I already had the New York setting because the Eden Empire, basically, it's the premise is that there's this massive department store in Manhattan called Eden's, kind of like Macy's, and it was owned by this family matriarch, and she was way ahead of her time and very fashionable, and she at one point had a whole chain of department stores, and then over the years they closed. And so when the series takes place, there's only the one original location in Manhattan, but it's massive. It's worth all this money, and 2 sisters, Sophie and Mindy Eden, inherit the store, and Sophie, who is like total sap, a hopeless romantic, just loves the idea of running the store, and Mindy is like, no way, I do not want any part of this. So that's sort of the genesis of the series. And then like I said, book 4 just came along because Isabel was in the other books, and I really liked her. Readers seemed to like her, and but it's hard when you have a secondary character and you only get to write a little bit of them. There's that urge to kind of flesh out their character and find out more. So that's where it came from.
Yeah. As I was reading through it, it did feel like it could be a standalone, but I kept getting these little hints like Sam and Mindy and then Sophie. I'm like, and there wasn't really much mention of Sophie having a partner. So I was like, oh, is this in the middle of a series? And it wasn't until I finished the book that I went and looked up the series order. It's like, oh, this one's right at the end.
Right. And this series, it starts with Christmas and ends with Christmas because the first book is A Christmas Temptation. Which it's funny. For readers, I love it, and just in terms of, especially if you like holiday romance, it's kind of fun because it's just basically the series takes place over a year, one Christmas to the next Christmas. But as a practical thing for a writer, it was not the best idea for me to do that. Only because, it's hard to put out a Christmas book in July, so you don't, even though people like to talk about Christmas in July. And so that did kind of space out the books a little bit more than maybe I would have wanted, but it all worked out.
So when they do these like re-releases, like for you as the author, I know it's just got to be exciting to like give it, new life, introduce it to potentially new readers. But do they give you like any rhyme or reason, like why did they choose this book specifically from the series? Like, are they looking for something specific, or is that a question they even answer?
I think they did really like the meet cute in the book.
Oh yeah, that is fire. We have to talk about the meet cute.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Isabel's just moved to New York from DC. Her brother lives there, and Eden's department store is under siege. There's this guy who's making legal threats against the store. And so Sam, his fiance Mindy, is one of the co-owners of the store, and she wants help, and the legal department at the store is kind of old and feeble, and she wants someone who's gonna fight for her family and fight for the store. And so Isabel has reluctantly taken this job. So she's in New York, she's living in a hotel while she finds an apartment, and the fire alarm goes off right after she's gone to bed. So she's wearing her silk charmeuse pajamas of course. And
the eye covers.
And the eye covers. And she has to trudge downstairs. And this is something that's been going on. It's a theme throughout the book with the fire alarm. And she goes downstairs, and it's December in New York, and she has to go out onto the sidewalk, and that's when she meets Jeremy, the hero. They have a very fun, flirtatious back and forth, and then he invites, once they get the all clear and can go back in the hotel, he invites her for a drink, and so she goes for a drink in her pajamas. And I just love that about her. I love that she was like, oh, screw it. I'll just wear my pajamas to the hotel bar and have a cocktail with this man I don't know.
This book is like so sleek and sexy. Like Erin and I we were chatting about it yesterday. And I mean, you use descriptions in like the right moments, and like you'll throw in these really like simple but sexy one-liners. Like he asks her to have a drink with him or something, and she's like hesitant. He's just like, I don't like to drink alone. And I was like, ooh, Jeremy. Like, this should not get me, but it totally got me.
Well, but that's sort of what you strive for. It doesn't always happen, but there's nothing better than the very simple one line, that makes you say, oh yeah, I can't say no to this.
Yeah.
Well, in the beginning of the book, our main characters shared 3 things they believe in. Will you share 3 things you believe in?
So I had to think about this. Honestly, a lot of the Isabel's 3 things, and of course, I did go back and skim the book before we did this, only because, I've written
quite a few since then.
15, like another 15 books since then, maybe. So I seem to remember she had something in there about how a nap could fix most problems. I totally am on board with that. Honestly, even if I don't have a problem, I still want a nap. So
I believe in that. For sure.
Yeah, I would just say a nap is the best thing ever. You should drink your coffee the way you like it. Don't feel any shame over your pumpkin spice latte or your mochaccino, mint chip, whatever. You should drink your coffee the way you like it. And the third one is hard. I guess, you know what? No matter how old your kids are, you should still love on them, even if they don't necessarily want it. You should still love on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned part of the meet cute is Isabel and Jeremy meeting, and she's in pajamas, having a drink due to the annoying fire alarm. So where would your perfect date night out in pajamas be?
It would be on my couch with my husband, drinking Brandy Alexander's.
Watching
like the Mindy Project or something, which we are rewatching. And I remembered how funny that series was, but we're rewatching it now, and it's just so hilarious and charming and sweet and funny and just everything. Anyway, that would be my perfect pajama date.
Well, chapter 2 is completely hot and intense, with a closing of the chapter we didn't see coming. Take us back, if you can, to writing that scene, because so many important things happen in this one chapter.
The big thing about writing category romance, because you have a limited number of words, is that, this is just something I've learned over many books, is that kind of front-loading the conflict is better than, you're going to add complications along the way, but just kind of layering just kind of hit the reader in the face with a whole mess of problems or potential problems, I think is good. And, I did like the way Isabel and Jeremy both have competing wants. She really wants to, find her soulmate. She wants to get married. She wants to have kids. She's been a lawyer in DC and like doing all this. She's gotten pulled into this sort of fixer mode, where she's worked for a lot of, rich and powerful people.
She felt very Olivia Pope-ish. She felt like Olivia Pope.
Yeah. And she's just tired of doing dirty work, and she wants to do something more meaningful, but, it's kind of sucked her soul dry. And so she recognizes that, which I think is great. But Jeremy, doesn't want any of those things. So, those, competing wants are important, but I also think they both have a lot of misconceptions about each other. He thinks of her as a shark when she's really not. And
I loved that. Like, he kind of views her, even his father kind of views her like, oh, we have to get her off of this case. Like, I was like, she
Right.
is a boss.
Right.
She's just chilling over here, enjoying
Yeah.
Christmas and playing with cats.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, but I love that too, because you just think about, we all have perceptions and impressions of people we don't know, and especially people who are powerful. But there's got to be a real human in there somewhere, in most instances, I would hope. So I do like the idea of, people kind of fearing her because she is such a BA when it comes to her job, but that she really is just a very normal, loving, caring, sweet person.
Well, I mean, you really, gosh, I feel like I'm still mentally transported to the holidays in New York City. I mean, I love a good small town Christmas, but there's just something special about Christmas in the big city.
Yeah.
So talk about writing, the story set during the holidays. If there's any, hard parts about setting a story during the holidays, like give us all the holiday romance writing details from your experience.
In general, I love it because I just really love Christmas. So, and usually I'm not writing the book at Christmas. So it's like I get to visit the holiday spirit at a time of the year where, it might be February or whatever. I would say it's mostly just you have to be sure that there are those Christmassy details in there, because you do want people to feel like it's got to have coziness. Like even set in New York, it's got to have this like cozy hug of a feel, because I feel like holiday romances need to have that kind of next level of transporting you and capturing, because there are always those years where like you get in the holiday spirit or you don't, and it's kind of elusive when you don't, and it's frustrating. So yeah, trying to capture that it's hard, but it's a good challenge and it's a fun one. I like chasing after it, but it does take some work. You kind of have to go back in and layer in little details and make sure that you're addressing, all the senses, smell and taste and all those things.
And like, how do you do that when you have, like, when you're writing category and you have the word count and so much matters? I mean, but I don't know. There were just so many scenes where I'm like, I'm totally getting this. Like, even when you would like describe his apartment and like the furniture, I was like, I can physically see this. And I know she only has so many words that she can do, but she found a way to slide this in. So can you talk about that?
Again, it's just about maximizing words, and description is actually the thing that I dread the most when writing. Like if it was just up to me, I would just write dialogue. I would just, put two people in a room and have them argue for a really long time, and then have them start kissing. But
love it.
So yeah, I mean, really, it is just about trying to paint the picture in my head, try to see it. I do use Pinterest a fair amount. Like I create boards for every single book, especially because sometimes I have to juggle books, move back and forth, and trying to kind of drop yourself back into a story is difficult. But I mostly just try to, because I don't do a lot of I'm not heavy with description. I just try to kind of use high impact words and sort of sketch in the scene. I do think readers like to fill in some blanks on their own. Don't you think?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I absolutely do.
Yeah. So I don't like to be too heavy handed with it. Just enough to kind of, sketch it in. And then I think as readers go through a chapter or whatever, they fill in the blanks for themselves.
Well, several times in the book, Jeremy, our hero, gets out-lawyered by Isabel. And instead of getting angry, he gets turned on.
Yes.
How did you come up with this lovable part of his character?
Well, okay, so first off, I just love a hero who will very willingly set aside his ego, because I get very frustrated with heroes who are not, and honestly, heroines too. I don't know. I just thought first off, it showed how much he loved the art of his job, that he loved the art of the argument and the kind of relentless nature of it. And so for him, it was like just added this whole dimension of her, being an incredibly irresistible woman. It was just that she was not only physically beautiful, but she was brilliant, and she was just, really good at her job. And I just think it was, for him, he had nothing but admiration for it, even when he was on the receiving end of it, which was a lot.
Yeah, like again, Aaron and I were chatting about this yesterday. Like, I feel like you played with tropes so much in this book because they should have been rivals to lovers.
Right.
But in a way, it's like they met, they hooked up, and then you put them in the situation where they really are rivals, but they don't hate each other.
Right. Right. Now, well, I mean, yeah, I like the tension of them having to compete against each other, especially knowing that underlying all of that is their, conflicting, wants in their lives. Wondering how do they find a happy middle ground, I guess. Could they find that? But yeah, no, I mean, so just sort of lovers to rivals to friends to lovers. But yeah, I like that. I mean, I love rivals to lovers. Like, that's partly just because I like writing arguments. I have a hard time with enemies to lovers, although I've written it. Partly I don't have a vindictive bone in my body, so it's hard for me to embrace the idea of someone else being vindictive or truly having an enemy. But anyway, I like messing with see it's fun.
Yeah. Well, you recently posted an Instagram photo of flowers you received from Harlequin for hitting the 25 books published with them milestone. So, few backlist questions. Tell us a personal favorite book of yours in your backlist.
It's hard. It's really hard. I love the first book in the Eden Empire series, Christmas Temptation, partly because it has the trope of someone's had a long crush on someone, and in that book, it's sort of backstory. The hero and heroine went to school together, went to college together, and she just had a massive crush on him for all of it. And then one night they drink too much and they sleep together, and she thinks, oh my God, this is the start of something amazing. And he's like, oh, I totally messed up our friendship. And so he calls it off, and then they don't see each other for like 6 years. And so I love that book because you could feel the longing in her for him. Like, you could really, and it was just this like deep, it went way beyond lust or anything like that. It just was this very like kind of heartbreaking longing for him. And I like writing that. So I would say A Christmas Temptation.
What's a backlist book where the plot or the characters came to you easier than most?
Almost no books come easy. I would say so. The second book I wrote for Desire, Pregnant by the Rival CEO, that was one of those books. I worked so hard on that book, and when I turned it in, I thought, oh my God, this thing is a total disaster. And then I got my edits back, and there were literally, I think there were 15 comments. Most edits you get 150. And I realized, so it was only after the fact that I realized how hard I had worked, but also how well the story came together in so many little ways. And that book also has a lot of good one line, moments where a character says one thing, and it just completely shuts down everything. Okay, this is, everything that's been going on, we're now, taking a 90-degree turn because you're right, And so I would say that book, it's not that it came easy, but it definitely came together in a way that you strive for so many books and you just don't necessarily get there every single time. But yeah, just on many different levels, that book came together in a way that I'm proud of.
Well, has there been a book in your backlist that you were a little nervous about releasing?
Oh, pretty much every book. I would say the first time I wrote a Texas Cattlemen's Club book, because I hadn't written Cowboys, I hadn't written in that series, and it's such a long-running series, I was definitely worried about messing it up. I'm like, what was that book called? It was called Secret Twins for the Texan. That was my first Texas Cattlemen's Club book. So I was really nervous about that. Just, did I get it right? It was hard. Plus, secret twins are hard. I haven't written a lot of secret babies. And this was one where she kept those twins away from him for 5 years. Yeah. And that's a plot detail that Harlequin gave to me and said, here, make it work.
Thanks, guys. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And, a lot of readers don't like that trope. Or if they do, there has to be a really good reason why you would keep a child a secret. So, yeah, I was just nervous about pulling that off. But I think I did okay.
Well, for any aspiring writers who may be listening right now, what advice would you give them?
I think it's the same advice that I give to my friends and to myself, which is that, especially if you're trying to get published, stay published, all of those things, there's so much in the publishing industry that you cannot control. So I always just, when I get to those moments where I doubt myself or question what I'm doing or, wonder if this is worth it, I always just try to return to the work because it's the one thing that I can control. And so I feel like, especially when you're starting, the more time you can spend just you and your words, it all pays dividends, because it's those little, it's a step forward every time you sit down and open a manuscript and work on it a little bit. And, being a writer is all about a million little steps. Sounds terrible, but it's true. It's true. I mean, I look back at my brother when I posted those photos of the flowers that Harlequin gave me after I published my 25th book with them. My brother texted me and he said, it's like, I can't even believe that you wrote 25 books. How did you do it? And I was just like, I have no idea. Other than I just showed up.
I showed up.
I showed up and I, did the work. And so I do think it is as simple as that you just have to keep showing up, and show up for yourself. Don't show up because, you think it's what a publisher wants, or, those are, business decisions, but ultimately the more you can just make it about you and your words, I think the happier you'll be.
Well, this December, we are also getting a new desire from you, Rancher After Midnight.
Yes.
Please tell us everything you can about the book.
So that book is also Texas Cattlemen's Club book. That comes out December 27th. So I have 2 books out in December. It is book 9 of 9 in the Ranchers and Rivals series. And for the first 8 books in the series, everyone in the town of Royal, Texas hates my hero.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, no.
You got that guy.
I got that guy. I got Heath. It's kind of a Beauty and the Beast vibe. Because everyone does hate him so much and he's so focused on this one thing. And there's basically, he lost his mom and his sister in a car accident. And after they passed away, he discovered that his mom had been given this deed to oil rights. And so the whole 8 books, he's chasing these oil rights. And everyone thinks he's greedy and, trying to claim them is going to involve digging up the property of these 2 kind of longtime royal families, families who have been there for generations, who have these massive ranches, who are just completely, steeped in tradition in Royal, Texas. And so, of course, everyone's up in arms that he wants to go and tear up their property and try to find the oil. And they think he's greedy. And so, yeah. And then my heroine is an oil surveyor. Which is not a profession I ever thought I would write. But she's the Beauty in the Beauty and the Beast. And she's a very kind of quiet, unassuming person, but she's also pretty fiery. And I liked just the way these 2 kind of they're both very insular people. And they're both kind of playing things close to the vest. And I liked the way that they brought out the best and at times the worst of each other. But we get a little snowed in Royal, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Which was interesting. That was something Harlequin wanted. So I gave it to them.
The last time we had snow in Texas, we went without power. So I am excited to see.
It's not out of the realm of possibility these days.
I just really would like some snow. So I will be there. Okay. I'm signing up for this.
It happens in this book. So it's a fun book. It's very sweet. It has horses in it. Lots of horses. Yeah, I don't know. I really liked the love story. Ruby Rose is the heroine. And, I do like reforming a character. So Heath definitely needs reforming. He has a twin brother, so that is also a fun storyline just because, his brother Nolan can let things go and he cannot let things go. And I liked kind of the push and pull of that because everyone's trying to tell him to let it go and he can't let it go. And so getting him to his happy ending was not very easy, but I think it's a good journey for the readers. And then, of course, I had to tie up all the little loose ends from the whole
oh my gosh, the
series.
whole series. Yeah.
So it's a daunting task when they ask you to do that. But I think I pulled it off. I think it's good. It's a good book. I'm really happy about it. So
we can't wait.
I know.
Thank you.
Well, lastly, where can everyone keep up with you online?
The easiest way is just to go to my website, KarenBooth.net. And because then that's got links to my Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I'm not on Twitter a lot. I am on Twitter a lot, but I'm mostly just like retweeting stuff. I don't tweet that much. I am on Instagram a fair amount. It's funny. The beginning of this year, I had all of these books that came out. I had a release in January, April, May, and June. And so I was so on top of it with social media. Like I was posting all the time. And then June happened. And I don't have another book until December. So it was like, I think I had burned myself out on social media. But if you go to my website, you can find, there's a reading list there. There's, a list of all the books. If you look at the downloadable reading list, it has all the tropes of every single book and sort of reading order of each individual series. And then, you can find all my social media there as well.